It's probably the most contested square mile on earth. The old city of Jerusalem is worshipped by Muslims, Jews, and Christians. Today you can enter and leave this revered place through 7 famous gates. But the most sacred gate for Jewish people is sealed, bricked up centuries ago. Called the Golden Gate because of its luster in the sunshine, Jews believe that when the Messiah comes, he will enter the old city through here. He will first appear, they say, on the neighboring Mount of Olives, and those buried there shall be the first to be resurrected. The desire of Jews the world over for this mount to be their final resting place means there's no longer room for the olive trees that gave the mount its name. In truth, space is also running out for burials, as it is in all Jerusalem's Jewish cemeteries. With almost 250,000 graves, this is the city's largest, and it's nearly full. Over the last 20 years, they've built multi-story plots, but the terraces that have gone up have almost been used up. It's a problem that's troubled Hanania Shahord for decades. He's director of Jerusalem's biggest burial society.
Jerusalem is not a big city, and there's not enough open space to build new cemeteries. And once you build a cemetery on a piece of land, this will be forever. You cannot knock it off and then build something bigger, or it's forever. So we understood that if we will continue this way of burying, we won't have space to live here about 200, 300, 400 years ahead from now.
But just when it seemed all options on the surface had been exhausted, Hanania, along with other creative minds, hit on a plan. They concluded the answer was no longer above ground, the answer lies within. A vast catacomb stretching more than a mile that will soon hold 23,000 graves. The first 8,000 are ready, opened at a lavish ceremony in October and blessed by the religious hierarchy. One of the reasons that this method of interment has got the approval of the guardians of Judaism, the rabbis, is that this is a modern take on an ancient practice. Archaeological digs in the Holy Land have revealed that the Israelites were digging catacombs as early as the 9th century BC. It's taken 4 years to get this far, and work isn't finished yet. There's another 15,000 graves to complete.
That was my finalization.
When I visited, burials hadn't started and no plots inside the tunnels had been sold. But that doesn't dampen the enthusiasm of Adi Alfandari from the engineering company responsible for all of this.
First of all, in an engineering way, it's something interesting, something very, very unique. And on the other hand, it's a real solution for a major problem in Jerusalem. And you see, fully equipped with the best of the technology of today, but still keeping the main basics of burial in tunnels.
The tunnels are so vast that once inside, visitors will be able to locate graves using a special app. A lot of thought has gone into trying to create an atmosphere of serenity. The lighting creates warmth in a place where the temperature will be a perfect 23 degrees all year round.
What you're going to see now is, I guess, one of the most impressive things in the project. It's the shaft or the main entrance where people will be entering through as the full project, the full-size project is open.
When they enter the earth.
When they do. Wow.
3 huge lifts will lower funeral parties through this chasm 6 stories below ground for the burial ceremony. What an introduction it will be.
Yes, it will.
Most Jews consider cremation taboo. Instead, the body must be laid touching the ground so it can return to the earth and back to dust. For dust you are, said God to Adam, and to dust you will return. Above ground, Hanania Shahor tells me how he worked alongside the engineers to ensure religious rules were honored. Every grave inside the tunnels touches the earth in some way. The results, he says, are perfect.
The project of the tunnels is my life project. It doesn't disturb the living people. The surface on top of the ground could be used for the living people. It's excellent.
The perpetual tunnels, as they're known, have cost around £50 million so far and have been entirely self-financed by the Burial Society. But Hanania isn't worried about losing money.
This is the speciality of Jerusalem. Many Jewish people from all over the world want to be buried in the holy city of Jerusalem. And those people pay much more than Israelis. And that's why we allowed ourselves to start such a new project. Once we finish it, everybody can learn from us how to do it.
The issue was never demand, it was always supply.
It was always supply.
But being buried so deep underground does not appeal to everyone. On another hillside at the same cemetery, Rabbi Jay Karzan has just sold a burial plot above ground to an American couple. He sold more than 2,500 plots to foreign Jews who can spend upwards of £10,000 to be buried in Jerusalem.
The concept of being buried in the ground or with no sun to see or no sky above you and so forth, it's problematic for many people. They want to be able, again, for the deceased, it makes no difference. But for the family and friends who come, it's comforting to know when they look out, they have an awesome view around them and so forth, and it's comforting. Underground, you don't have that, of course.
Whether building towards the sky or deep underground, Jerusalem may have to embrace more radical solutions to maintain space for the living. Urban planner Ayelet Krauss believes she's found a compact, if macabre-sounding answer. Bone collection, a common practice here 2,000 years ago.
People used to bring their dead people here. Once they needed the space again, they collected the bones which were left from the dead person and put them in here. This cave used to have generations of families buried in one small cave. And we're actually going back to the tradition which took place right here in Jerusalem.
Ayelet says bones could be removed after a year or two and put into a small box or ossuary, then placed in a vault. It's an effective way of recycling burial plots and staying within religious rules.
יש הרבה מאוד פסיכולוגיה ולא נעים סביב הנושא הזה של המוות. אין ספק שיהיו כאלה שיאמצו את זה מיד, וכדי שהרבה מאוד יאמצו את זה, זה יהיה תהליך ארוך טווח.
Jerusalem will continue to be held up as the ideal final resting place for Jews in Israel and beyond. Those responsible for these tunnels have been surprised at the level of interest there's been from abroad in this subterranean solution. By reviving an ancient practice, Jerusalem is tapping into its past for the sake of its future.